guys, so I'm in the middle of introducing my rats. I actually have completed it. I have done videos on it, but Amy, this little girl over here, doesn't seem too fond of Ragnar and Rollo right now, so I've decided to reintroduce them, and I thought I'd just do a video quickly on the introduction process of rats, because while I was doing this, I was posting on the Instagram, the Rattie Instagram, which is p.a.h.rattiemischief. I actually had some haters. Well, it was mainly just one troll who was just trying to call me out for animal abuse because they don't understand rat introductions. So I thought I would do this video to explain rat introductions and the process you need to go through with rat introductions to do it safely, to make sure that none of your rats are hurt during the process. So this is the carrier method. I actually did not use this carrier for the original introductions because, remember, it's 10 rats. As you can see, this is a small hamster carrier that I just use mainly for like emergencies if I need to take a rat to a vet. So I decided to use this because there's only 3 of them, and if I use the small hamster cage, then they wouldn't be touching and it would be useless. You know, Amy would just be hiding. As you can, if you can hear, she is squeaking when they go near her. She doesn't like it, but she's gonna have to get used to it. So I'm gonna leave them in here for a while, just to get them all used to being around each other. The rest of the girls don't seem to have a problem with Ragnar and Rollo. They aren't exactly sleeping together. Ragnar and Rollo don't seem too confident inside the cage right now, so they're not exactly going into the hammocks, and when they did try, this one was barking at them, refusing to let them in. So that's why this is happening. So my actual introduction process was with this cage. I had all 10 of them inside this cage, and this is what happens when you try to grab Willow, Nala, Amy, Buffy. Those are the main problem rats I have with grabbing and holding. So yeah, now carrier method is you start in a small carrier like this, but obviously, as I say, I had 10 rats, so I did not start with this. I started with this because I thought it was more comfortable. Don't worry about those squeaks. That's just Amy moaning about the boys being close to her. Also, if anyone's worried about the boys and the neutering and if they're sterile, I've read up a lot about it, and I've read that they're sterile after 8 days. I took the risk. It is the 8th day. So, like I say, if I have pregnancies on my hand, then it's nothing I can really do about it. I needed to get this done quickly because I didn't want to wait any longer for the boys to be introduced. Which obviously, I understand that is my own risk. But as I say, it doesn't look like anything has happened in regards to the boys being with the girls, and they've been with the girls for about a day and a half now altogether. So yeah, anyway, the introductions was in this this small cage. I posted on Instagram with them all in this cage, and I had some hate from this one particular user that did not own rats, and I don't quite know why they thought, they could actually say something about it, but they called what I was doing animal abuse, and apparently they needed to be in their bigger cage for the introduction so that they had more space in case there was fights. And it's actually, the reality of it is that this is a good cage. In fact, most people would go for this cage because if a fight broke out, it stops the rats from pulling away from each other so much, and then because they're not pulling away, there's less likelihood of tearing in their skin, less wounds, that sort of thing. They're forced to be near each other, so they can't really fight too much. So in this cage, they have room to fight, they have room to jump, which did happen. The girls were in the corner, the boys were in this corner. Sometimes they would go near each other, but it ended well. Willow did have a bit of a problem with Ragnar, and I did have to put her back in the carrier with just Ragnar. She didn't mind Rollo, but whenever she saw Ragnar, she was, jumping on him. Like, literally, fangs. Imagine a tarantula like sort of thing. So yeah, I had to put her back in here yesterday with him, and I left the house and I just left them in the cage with water bottles and some food scattered around. And I came home and I found that they were the best of friends. Put them back in the cage, and Willow and Nala were the only girls that were willing to sleep with Ragnar. So yeah, Ragnar does have girls sleeping with him. Rollo doesn't, mainly because he doesn't want to sleep anywhere apart from in the litter box at the very top of the cage. Which, you know, what are you going to do? So anyway, the rule of thumb is, I didn't do it this way because I wasn't comfortable with it. I don't have as much time on my hands to do full-blown, leave them somewhere for 24 hours, then move them on to something else for 24 hours. You know, you move up and up the cages after like a day or so, or maybe even longer, depending on what the rats are like. So I didn't do that. I didn't wait for them to be cuddled up. I just waited for them to be calm. So they were in the small cage for, I would say, about 5 hours. They were in here, and I didn't leave them in overnight, mainly because the cage is quite cheap. It was only £3. I know, I mean, of course it was. Look at the size on it. But because of the price of it, I was worried that the plastic might be cheap. They might be able to chew through it. And I didn't want to have 10 rats running around my kitchen throughout the night. So I moved them up from this cage to the boys' ferret cage. And I didn't clean it. I literally just left it as it was when I had the boys originally in it. Mainly because it's the girls that are the problem. The boys are quite mellow. They aren't fighting with the girls. They don't really care that the girls are there. If anything, they like the extra attention that the girls bring. So I left the boys' cage as it was. It smelled very strongly of them, and the girls had to intake all their smell. I don't know if some people agree with this, but I think that helped quite a bit with most of the girls, because Nala, Luna, Pepper, I'm trying to think of all the rats. Nala, Luna, Pepper, Buffy, majority of the girls were fine. They were fine with the boys in the end, because everyone smelt like them. And that's kind of the rule of thumb when you're doing rat introductions, is that you want them all to smell the same. The more you smell the same, the less likely you are to attack that rat, is the gist of it. Which is another reason why you use very small. In fact, I should probably go smaller, but I don't have anything smaller than this, because, again, she's avoiding them now. And who is that? Rollo's avoiding her. His ears are pinned back. He's also avoiding. Come on, Ragnar. There we go. That's better. That's not, well, she's still avoiding. You can see by her eyes. But yeah, you pick this up after having so many rats. You can tell what their behavior is and what it means. So she's avoiding, he's avoiding. What we want to see is them all just cuddle together, or at least being a little bit more interactive with each other. So I will be leaving them in here for quite a while. They'll have to live without water for a bit, but I can give them some food. That's another reason why I use this cage, because obviously I can attach water bottles. So yeah, the gist of it is that with rat introductions, you want them all to just kind of just be okay with each other. That's what I was looking for. I knew I didn't have the time for them to be completely and utterly like cuddled together. Like, everybody wants a rat ball, which I sadly do not have the time for. Now, Luna, she's like, where have you taken them? Luna, don't bite the bars. She's the only, well, her and Nala, I don't know why, but they just bite the bars. And I know it's because they want out before anybody comments, something like that. So yeah, this is their cage anyway. I may as well just take you over to this, because I'm going to be leaving them there for a while. I am going to be putting a video up of the process that I've done with the introductions of them in the small cage. So yeah, the fact is, if you do a rat introduction, there are different methods. I'm using the carrier method because it's better for me and for like my lifestyle right now, because obviously I have a daughter as well, a very young daughter. I can't be looking over my shoulder constantly with the rats. So that's why they were in the smaller hamster cage. Again, quotation marks, it's not a hamster cage. Do not buy that for a hamster. Hamsters need a lot bigger enclosures. So I think what happened is they were in the smaller cage for 5 hours. Then after I saw that they were all just sleeping. They weren't sleeping together. But you know, I had some of the girls sleeping next to the boys. The girls they were all looking at each other. Their backs weren't turned, which is a good sign. If their backs are turned to each other, then you know they're avoiding it. They're being ignorant. So then I decided I would move to the ferret, which was all still very messy from the boys. I don't know if I have a photo. If I do, or if I have a clip, I will try and insert it. But if I don't, then you know it's a ferret cage. They still had their hammocks in. I made sure there was nothing enclosed. So I took out the chinchilla bathhouse that the boys had in, which is that blue thing there, but it was the green version for the boys. And I just left them to it. As mean as it may sound to some people, that is sometimes the best thing to do. I did hear them throughout the night. Well, I say throughout. I heard them a little bit. I heard them squeaking, which was mainly the squeak that the girls were making if the boys were near them. There wasn't any fights. I would be able to hear if there were fights going on, so I didn't have to come down. And I was coming downstairs regularly to check on them because obviously I don't want anything to happen. And so yeah, after all that, I then put them into this cage. The next morning I woke up, I saw everybody was fine. It looked like everybody was literally, they didn't have any wounds in them. So I decided that was the day. I had my new substrate delivered. I'm now using Aubiose, Aubiose, Aubiose. Aubiose? I don't know how how you say it, but that's what came. So I completely cleaned the girls' cage. I cleaned down all the IKEA tie holders. I disinfected everything, which was annoying because I really don't like disinfecting the rats' things because I know they like to have their things still smell like them, if that makes sense. Like, you know, you don't completely clean it. So yeah, I disinfected everything. New hammocks were put in and new layout, and yeah, it's all been fine. I have some videos on Instagram if anybody wants to follow me over there. It's p.a.h.rattiemischief, and it shows them all sleeping. Rollo sleeps in that basket over there. Ragnar tends to sleep in the bathhouse with where Nala is right now, where Nala and Willow will sleep with him, but Willow is sleeping up in that hammock right now. So obviously they have a very busy layout now because there is 10 rats. I know the boys aren't nearly as active as the girls, but in case, you know, the thing is, I believe that if you don't like somebody, you can get away from them. You don't have to be forced near them. So that's why the layout is like this. So they can spend time away from each other if they want. So that is everything. I'm running out of space. Thank you for watching. Bye. So everyone's sleeping, as you can see, but I'm still not entirely happy. I think I will leave them in here a little bit longer just because Ami is still turned away from them. As you can see, Ragnar and Rollo are kind of doing a yin-yang sort of thing going on here, but they're facing each other, whereas Ami is just kind of, you know, in her own bubble, kind of. So I'm going to leave them in here a little bit longer because I want her to want to be near them. I want her to actually want to be comforted and, you know, just the warmth of another rat. That's what I'm after. Mainly because she has been very difficult with Ragnar and he did have a bite on his side. So I want to make sure that she is completely good with the others. Right, now everyone's back in the big cage again. Ami and the boys seem fine now. She's eating in the litter box over there. She hasn't really bothered. What I've found now is that Nala, who is under that, is squeaking whenever any rat goes near her. So I'm not quite sure what's wrong with her in that sense. I know that she's a skittish rat anyway. Obviously, we all know that she's quite skittish. I can't hold her still, even though it's been 6 months. So obviously, I'm just gonna have to keep an eye on her. But yeah, I had to move them back into this cage, mainly because they were all hungry and they didn't want to cuddle up anymore. So that's why I've decided to bring everybody back into the cage. Rollo's eating, Ragnar is eating in the bathhouse, and now Amy is done with this. She's gonna go find somewhere to sleep. So yeah, honestly, I think that I have a really good group going. I don't see any other issues now that I've tackled Willow, Ragnar and Rollo, and Amy, Ragnar and Rollo, which is great. They were the only ones that were a bit iffy at first, and now I can't imagine that there is going to be any other problems. But obviously, if there is, then I would just go a step back in the introduction process again. And there's little Buffy. Buff. Oh, I think that's Buffy. I think it is. So yeah, that is the end of my introduction, hopefully. Fingers crossed. And this only took me about 36 hours maybe. I'm not quite sure on the math of it. Maybe 40 hours, but regardless, it didn't take that long. But obviously don't try and do the exact same thing I did, because obviously every rat is different, every group is different. The girls are really good with introductions. I knew this back when I first introduced the second lot of girls, which were Peppa, Amy, Buffy, and Michiru. To Willow, Luna, Nala, and Mina. It took me like 2 hours, and they were a cohesive group. So, and obviously, as you can see, Peppa's playing with Willow right next to Rollo. So she's completely fine with having Rollo near her. Oh! And what you're seeing there is Willow not happy with Peppa and Peppa not giving up. And yeah, Rollo, I wouldn't go over there. Girls can get feisty. That usually happens with Willow. She gets quite timid with any playing. If you go a bit too far, especially Peppa. As you can see, Peppa's pushing it. Now, these are the original, not original, but these are my girls. These aren't the boys. So during introductions, obviously, you can have some mishaps with your normal rats. But I don't think there were any bites there. I think it was just more of a bark than a bite. So yeah, that is everything. Everyone's going into where Ragnar is. Poor Rag. Hopefully, again, as I just said, this will be the end of it. Oh, yeah. Look at her. She's just trying to wind Willow up. Willow will have you, literally. Peppa doesn't learn. Peppa's still young. So yeah, that is it. I'm going to turn this off now because I don't want to record anymore. If anything happens, then obviously I will record it. But until then, thank you very much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant day and have easy rat introductions if that's the reason why you're watching this. If not, that's fine. So yeah, thank you for watching and goodbye.